Okay, well, I'm back in Wisconsin. It's the day before Thanksgiving. I try to get out of Thanksgiving obligations one way or another. I'll go out and shoot the squirrel, nothing more. You'll have to skin it, you'll have to gut it, you'll have to boil it up and shred the skin off the bones and add the mayonnaise, lots of mayonnaise. Put it in the microwave. Whatever you do to it, I don't know. How do you make Thanksgiving? I don't know. But I'm not going to talk about Thanksgiving. I said I'm not going to vlog about Thanksgiving. Quit with all the questions about Thanksgiving. So Eli Blake says, okay, do you own a firearm? That's the sort of, that's a good question. If not, do you know how to use one? Are you a good shot? If so, what's the model? Well, that's a good question, Eli, and I'm glad you finally did ask a vlog question. But the fact is, that's not the kind of question I like to answer. I don't want people to know what weapons I'm holding. That way no one ever attacks me. You don't know the firepower that I have here. Well, I would love to be a television talk show host, but I wanted to tell you about how I did the Mancow show on Monday. I got called up to do the Mancow show because they wanted to talk about plastic surgery. So a very smart guy from the show called me up, and I talked to him for a while, and we kind of planned, we talked about various things I could say and so on, right? So then, okay, so they're going to call you at 7 a.m. on Monday. We're going to put you on the show. I don't really know the show that much. I'm basically familiar with shock jock shows from Howard Stern, not so much from Mancow. I probably have heard that a little while driving around on the satellite radio. So I'm on hold. So they put me on hold at like 7:10 in the morning on Monday, and then listening to the show, one thing after another is going on, all this crazy stuff. I'm on there for 20 minutes. Finally, they get me on, and I'm on for like a total of 1 minute. And Mancow is like, starts just throwing all these things. So what do you think of Michael Douglas, Kenny Rogers, like naming people that I'd never talked to with the prep guy on the phone. If you had wanted me to check out some pictures of Michael Douglas and Kenny Rogers so that I could talk about it, I would have looked at some pictures of it. It's like, now you're just throwing questions at me. I have no idea. I'm unprepared. It's like a nightmare. And then there's only like 1 minute, and he keeps saying, he's like doing my URL for, I'm hoping I'll get all these new readers for my website, Meanwhile, I'm like a deer in the headlights, the audio version of a deer in the headlights, because I have nothing to say. I have no idea. Maybe I should just make up something about, how ridiculous Kenny Rogers looks with his plastic surgery, or Michael Douglas. I have no idea. I have been avoiding looking at Michael Douglas for years, because years ago, like in the 80s when he was real popular, I got the idea in my head, and excuse the expression, but his face reminded me of a scrotum. Something about, I don't know, the jowls, or, so I never liked the way he looked at. Something about him rubbed me the wrong way. So I've been avoiding looking at him even from back when he was at his best, in his prime. But so what am I supposed to do? Just make up crap about how terrible they look? I don't know what they look like. I don't like to lie. And yet, this is my big chance to reach millions of Mancow viewers. What am I supposed to do? Whatever. It was hell. It was crazy. And then he's just like going like, so what have you got? And I'm like, what have I got? What does that mean? What have I got? It's sort of like I called in, and I had something I wanted to tell them, but they were going to ask me questions. What the hell kind of a question is, what have you got? Oh, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. Anyway, if I were the host, though, I would try to ask good questions. I think I'm kind of good at asking questions. What the hell kind of questions is, what have you got? It was a nightmare. It was really a nightmare. Windbag said, any thoughts on 40-ish people attempting to enroll in law school? Attempting? If you're in your 40s and you want to go to law school, apply like anybody else. If you have the credentials, you'll get in. You might be particularly good at it. We like people who have a background like in business, or some kind of a lot of times people who have done music in the past, or nurses often make great law students. They know a lot about, or people with a scientific background will sometimes go in and seek to become patent lawyers, something like that. People like that make great law students. I think that's particularly good. Trooper York says, since your commenters are a bunch of preening egoists, talk about us. The interplay between different viewpoints. Why you let some things go and jump on other things with both tootsies. both Tootsies, I'll have you know I have 10 Tootsies. And I hope you do too. Or at least 8 or 9. How much rope do you give us before it becomes too much rope? Well, see, it's the thing. Some comments, when they really take off and you get like hundreds of them, I don't necessarily read it that closely. And sometimes that happens because people are having a big argument. And then you might think, well, I'm not monitoring that much. It's just that I can't keep track of the conversations that really take off unless I'm participating in them myself. So sometimes those get out of hand. And I know there was one a day or so ago when everybody was swearing at each other, and I didn't do much about it. You know, so it is a little bit capricious, depending on what I'm actually reading. And certain people, I don't know, you know, try to understand me. You know, I think this gives you a great opportunity to try to understand me. What am I jumping on? You know, see, that's a good question for you. That's more information for you trying to understand me. Oh, but you wanted me to talk about you because you're egotistical. What about me? Are you sorry you indulged some behavior and wish the conversation would go in another direction? When is enough? When is enough enough? Or do you want to unspool the roll all the way to the end? He spelled roll, R-O-L-E. Unspool the roll. I bet you're more relaxed in Madison than New York. Titus says, oh, that is so true. I'm so comfortable in Madison. I'm just spacing out here in Madison. I'm very happy in Madison. New York, well, partly I've been in this house for 20 years, more than 20 years. So I feel so, I mean, the house is sort of like a part of me. Whereas in New York, I have this apartment. It's a nice apartment. It's a furnished apartment, and, you know, it's more like being in a hotel, which is okay. But it's a different kind of a feeling. Describe the difference between your mood in Madison compared to New York City. And you can't say Madison is home and New York City is temporary. Oops. I want to know if you feel more tense in New York City. No, I don't feel tense in New York City. I don't feel threatened or afraid. I don't feel overwhelmed by the crowds. Most days I love, but some days I hate the rat race. No, I don't get caught up in the rat race. You know, my classes are late in the day. You know, I have my own paths and secret ways in New York. And I don't get caught up in the rat race like you. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you have do you have a way, if you live in the city, do you have a way of, you know, finding serenity, finding your own paths that are not cluttered with the rat race, you know? Some, like going into work really early, or working at home, or taking special sorts of breaks during the day, making up the work in the middle of the night. You know, there are different ways of flying under the radar or escaping the crowded channels of commerce. I went to galleries on Saturday. I went to Chelsea and went to a bunch of art galleries. And, you know, it was the middle of the day on Saturday. There were galleries where I was the only person. Nice ones with, you know, good shows. You actually can get away from the crowd. And no one can ever be in your head. Another thing is, you know, wearing the headphones and listening to your own music. I listen to audiobooks. I've been walking around listening to Eric Clapton's autobiography. So, you know, it's just me and Eric's problems. You know, I don't have problems like Eric has problems. And, you know, he's in another time, another place, and here I am listening to him with his problems. You know, he's on heroin, he beats the heroin only to become even worse with the alcohol. It goes on and on, he has relapses, you know. Meanwhile, I'm just walking around listening to it. I got through that, and I'm listening to Alan Greenspan's autobiography. Alan Greenspan has it together way more than Eric Clapton did.